The countdown is on for the federal government to shut down at midnight tonight unless Democrats and Republicans in Congress agree on this last minute deal. President Trump met with top congressional leaders from both parties yesterday, but no deal happened afterwards. Democrats are pushing to extend health care subsidies for Americans, while Republicans want to maintain current funding levels, so less health care support for Americans for the next 7 weeks. That they want to, in other words, kick the can down the road for 7 more weeks. The Senate plans to bring up the House passed funding bill for another vote today in an effort to prevent a shutdown, guys. I mean, just here we are again. This seems to happen a lot in Washington, and somehow they usually pull it off at the 11th hour.
Was it a nickel that you wanted for every one of these
No, I want a
potential?
dollar. I want a
$1. That was it. Okay. So some stats here for you. 21 of these government funding gaps since 1976 and 14 actual government shutdowns that we've watched and witnessed happening. With more on what we might be able to expect in the next several hours, we're joined by Republican analyst Paul Kanitra. Paul, thanks for joining us this morning on Connecting America. What is going on today? Time is running out. Is there any hope that this can be stopped? Avoid the shutdown.
As of just a couple minutes ago, it seems like we're at a stalemate. We're heading for a government shutdown, and I think that's kind of what both sides want, depending on their own political calculus, right? I think it's inevitable at this point.
Hey, Paul, as you know, Democrats say, hey, Republicans control the House, they control the Senate, they control the White House. This is on them. So, what's your response to that?
Well, that's what they're banking on. And I think they're banking on the fact that the average person isn't paying attention to the details enough, and that they're just saying, oh, look, Republicans are in charge, they're shutting down the government. But the nuance is a lot more detailed than that, right? The reality of the situation is the Republicans are just trying to pass a CR, a clean CR, and Democrats are trying to claw back things that they lost in the big, beautiful bill. And obviously it's always under the guise of just generic health care. But in reality, what really is going on is Democrats are trying to add things to this clean resolution. Under Biden, Republicans granted Democrats, I believe, 13 different clean resolutions, CRs, continuing resolutions. So it's absolutely ridiculous. And the things that they're trying to climb back when they're talking about health care, they're trying to claw back regular check-ins to check to see if people are legal residents. They're trying to check and claw back work requirements because obviously in the big, beautiful bill, if you're in your 60s and you're able-bodied, you need to be able to work. And those are the things that they're clawing back. Republicans aren't looking to take health care away from people. Democrats are the ones that are holding everybody hostage here, and that's the reality of the situation.
We're seeing some critical gubernatorial elections coming up in this fall, both in Virginia and here in New Jersey. Democrat Mikey Sherrill, Republican candidate Jack Ciattarelli. What could this shutdown mean for these elections heading into the fall?
Again, I guess it depends on how you spin it, right? Republicans have already said that if we go into a shutdown, that they're going to offset the costs. So there's not going to be as many costs to the American people. But what are they offsetting it with? They're going to lay off 100,000 federal workers, right? Most of those federal workers are probably coming from Northern Virginia and Maryland. So it's not going to help the Virginia gubernatorial candidate on the Republican side very much. But in New Jersey, we're a little bit insulated from that. In fact, I think we're more interested in the energy crisis that's been created by the last 8 years of Governor Murphy's rule.
Hey, Paul, if there is a shutdown, we know the White House is said to be looking at turning some of the furloughs into permanent layoffs. Is that a good move, or could that backfire if you're going to put more people out of work?
Seems to be a recurring theme this morning that it depends on who's spinning it and who's actually eating up the spin here, right? Republicans are trying to streamline government. These are positions that they've deemed in offices that they've deemed non-essential, and now they have a pathway to clean that up. I think the average person believes that there's a lot of government bloat, and I think that that's gonna fall on the Republican side in this.
All right, Paul Kanitra, thank you very much for coming in with the Republican perspective on all of this.